One, two, one, two. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the podcast of Joy, where we are going, so what? The weather's got you down. The brakes in your car, they don't even seem to work anymore. You're looking at your wallet at your waistline, bro. Man, that's my problem. You're wondering, man, what is going on around here? Don't worry, my dear Gozo friend. Let's spend the next few minutes talking about grace, talking about joy, talking about go, and talking about Gozo here. Let me know where you're watching me from. Leave me a comment below here on Facebook Live, on Periscope Live. If you are in Periscope, be sure that you press the three buttons here on the left bottom of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, make sure that you leave me a comment below. Let me know where you're watching me from. Are you here in the LA area, Long Beach, Bellflower, in California? Are you watching me from somewhere else? If you are on YouTube Live, be sure to leave me a comment. I will be reading your comments here in a few minutes, saying hello to all of my people in Gozolandia. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube and Periscope and here on Facebook Live. Of course, always delighted to have you. Today is a very important day, a very important topic. We're talking about communication. How to better communicate with your boss, your friend, your partner, husband, wife, your family, so that you can be heard and people get you. Because a lot of times we think we're putting down some good stuff, but nobody's picking it up. So I want to say hello here first to my dear GOZOtv. How are you, GOZOtv? Today's coffee is tasting amazing. I also got my Gozo bell. Every time that we say something amazing, which happens once in a while, we ring that bell. We also have our Gozo trophy, because remember that you're a campeón, a champion. I also got my Gozo flowers. By the way, if you would like to send me some flowers, I will definitely acknowledge you, and hopefully we can all be enjoying these flowers. But today, before I get into the topic of this day about communication, which is a very important topic, I want to, as always, say hello to my Gozo Duende and to my Gozo Gorro. Hello, Gozo Gorro. Hello. Hello, Gozo Duende. Hello, Mr. Trigueros. How are you today, Gozo Duende?
I'm doing pretty good.
How did you sleep?
I slept laying flat on my face.
Why did you do that? Where's that laugh track? There it is. Why did you fall asleep? Why did you fall asleep like that, my dear Gozo head?
Because I was really tired and I didn't want to sleep standing up. Do I look like a bat?
But I hear Gozo Duende that bats, they fall asleep with their, upside down.
Well, I'm not a Gozo bat. I am a Gozo Duende.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, my Gozo Duende. Is there anything that you would like to tell us today?
Yes, remember to always eat your Wheaties and buy more chocolate.
Okay, Gozo Duende. Thanks so much, my Gozo Duende, for being here. Always, as I say, remember that there is pain in the night, Gozo comes in the morning. This show is about joy, about gozo, about laughter, because laughter, what does it say? Is the best medicine. So today we're talking about how to communicate with the people in your life, because sometimes we are misunderstood. Have you ever felt misunderstood? That is something that happens to a lot of us. So let's go right into my message of this day, this topic that's very important. I want to give you a few tips, my dear friend. Make sure that you call me at this number of 851-741-8376. And if you call me right here, you will enter a prize or enter a contest to win one of these awesome Gozo heads, Gozo tazas. If you call me at that number above on the screen, you can also Facebook message. Here's a question for you. What keeps you from being heard? What keeps you or prevents you from being heard when you're trying to communicate with somebody else? Leave me a comment. What is it that keeps you from being able to express yourself like you want? Is it something that people say? Is it you feel nervous? Let's say you're talking to your husband, to your wife, and maybe you have a disagreement, and you're trying to express what you feel, but maybe the other person doesn't get it. What keeps you from communicating clearly to somebody else? And I'm not talking about, language stuff like, not knowing English or a word. I'm not talking about that, although that could be part of the problem sometimes, right? But I'm talking about in whatever language you feel more comfortable in, what keeps you? And then here's the thing, what helps you? What can the other person do to help you feel more understood so that you can communicate? Now, let me first, before I get into the actual topic of this, let me tell you, why is it important to actually communicate with your boss, with your friends, with your partners? Well, obviously, when we communicate effectively with the person that we love or the person that we're talking to, then they understand our point, we feel heard, and there is trust that's developed. So really the reason why this topic is so important is because a lot of times we don't feel trust, or we don't feel that freedom to talk to somebody else, or we try to say something and it doesn't come out quite the way we mean it. So I want to give you 10 tips. I got 10 tips today. But before I keep going, I want to say hello to Jose Quinteros, to McCain, and to Jaime Saavedra. Welcome, my dear friends, to GOZOtv here on this beautiful morning on Thursday here in the Gozo Studios in Long Beach, California. Number 1, here it is. Speak loud and clear. I want to give you 10 tips on how to learn to communicate more effectively so that you can get your point across. Number 1 is speak loud and clear. As someone said, talk through me, not at me. In other words, don't make me work for what you're telling me. This is something that I find often, especially in the workplace, that people talk, but they don't speak loudly or clearly. And I'm talking about just simply their volume. I'm talking about just simply what they're saying. So many times, someone will come or call me on the phone and they're trying to tell me something, or they'll come to my front door and I have no idea what they're telling me. I can't even hear them. And I definitely, sometimes, speaking of language, I can't understand what they're telling me. Because we live in a society where people are inundated with stuff, with noise, you need to learn, my dear Gozo friend, how to speak loudly. And I'm talking about volume. I'm not talking about yelling. I'm not talking about being obnoxious. But you have to bring your voice to a certain level so that people can hear you. Because hopefully they have good hearing. But the point is, you're going to cut through all the other noise. Now, again, I'm not saying yell or disrupt or be obnoxious or be disrespectful, especially if you're in a situation at work, or much less with your wife or your husband or your children. But what I'm talking about is make sure that you are in a good place to be bold. If you're feeling weak, you haven't eaten in days, if you're sick, if you're just kind of out of it, then it's better that you wait until the next day when you feel more yourself and you can speak clearly. And you can speak loudly, boldly. As I said, speak through me, not just simply not just talk to me or talk around me. That's a very important, that's the first tip. Number 2, interrupt when appropriate and dominate the conversation. You might think, what kind of tips are these, Trig? Let me tell you, in all of my years whether it's at work, or at home, or with friends. You have to obviously know your audience. I'm not going to yell at my wife. I'm not going to interrupt my wife. I'm not ascribing that. I'm not prescribing that. But these tools are things that you have to apply, and you have to kind of fit to your context. But here's the principle. Number 2 is interrupt when appropriate and dominate the conversation. Something that I notice a lot is that people are so, I wouldn't call it shy, because really, I mean, some people, are more shy, more introverted. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to communicate. They feel nervous. So I get that a lot, right? People say that that's the worst fear that people have, is how to speak in public or how to really talk to a person. But what I mean by this is you have to learn how to interrupt, because sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, that other person just keeps going and they never give you a moment to speak. So you have to learn how to interrupt. Now, how do you interrupt? Here's some tips, here's some principles. I'm very practical here on GOZOtv, here at the David Trig Show. Ask David Trig. So by the way, leave me a comment below. Here's a question. What prevents you from getting your point across? Is it the other person? Is it you're feeling nervous? And then here's another question. What helps you? What have you found helps you to actually get your point across? So call me at this number, or leave me a comment below. Ask me your questions so we can maybe talk here today. Okay, so again, interrupt. So here's some tips on how to interrupt. You can say something like, I have a different way of looking at that. That obviously maybe is a little more confrontational. You don't have to be that way, but that can get people's attention. You can perhaps say, here's what I've thought of. Everybody likes to know what you've thought of. You can say something like, what I learned the other day is, everyone loves to know what you've learned. You could say, I read a book or an article that said this. Everyone in your job, you're at home, or when you're talking to somebody, let's say in a relationship, loves to know that you've been doing some research, that you've been learning, that it's not just your opinion. What happens a lot of times in workplaces or even at home is that we get into these battles over opinions, that maybe that this is just simply what you think. And obviously you need to be firm on what you believe. But sometimes when you're not getting across, again, I'm talking about when you're not getting your point across, what do? To interrupt, you want to say something like, here's something I've been reading, or here's a book that I've been checking out, or, I heard somebody say, or you can say, I've been thinking about something. If you want to be more confrontational, you can say, I don't agree with that point. Now, if you do go that route, you have to then be able to be very calm, cool, and collected and articulate, because immediately you're going to put everybody on the defense. So now let's say at home, if you're having an argument with your wife or with your husband over who's supposed to pick up the kids or who's supposed to take care of the dog. So you want to say something like, I've been thinking about a different way of taking care of the dog. Or I wonder if this would be a better approach. Now, those are what I would call the more diplomatic interruptions. Now, if you want to be a little bit more in the middle, more bold, you can say, I would like to do this. You can state your opinion. I would like, but make it more as a want or as a desire. I want to I need help with this situation. I would like your assistance in this. I need to learn how to do this. I need help with this. Here's something that I've always liked is, I would like your answer on the following things. That's something that I often have used when I was a staff member in churches or really in any place that I've worked, and I wanted something, I would say, I would like your answer on the following things. That's a very good way to, quote, interrupt, get your point across, and as I said, to be able to actually dominate the conversation. What I mean by dominate, I guess let me just speak to that, is that you don't want to, if you have something to say, again, I'm assuming here that you have something to say. If you have something to say, you want to, at least for those 2-3 minutes, dominate the conversation. Because has this ever happened to you? This happens a lot. I've noticed this so many times. People will begin to talk, and then somebody else pipes in, and now you're shut down, right? Because someone else dominated the conversation. So when you bring something up to the table, you want to be able to continue to be in that flow. to actually remain for those 2 minutes in control of the conversation. How do you do that? You make a list. For example, you say, I thought of 3 things that I wanted to give you. There are 3 things. Number 1, number 2, blah, blah, number 3, boom, boom, boom. So you want to give some sense of where you're going, and that's how you can dominate the conversation. Another great way to dominate the conversation is by giving tips. You can say, you know, I have a few tips I'd like to share with you. The other day, one of my friends was being interviewed, and the host was just going on and on and on, and my friend was not able to get a word in. What I advised to her, I said, hey, next time, say something like, hey, you know what, I have a few tips I'd like to share. Immediately, you're dominating the conversation, you're interrupting the other person's just kind of flow, and you, most of all, you're providing value. You're helping the conversation along. So that's number 2. Number 3, let's keep going here. We have 10 of these. Bring it. Number 3 is bring it. Be honest. Have a take. Have something to say. Here's the thing. If you are going to interrupt the conversation and go through all this mess, make sure that you have something to say. Bring it. And that means you may have to plan ahead of time, write things down. If you're a spontaneous person, make sure that you have some clear words and some maybe even charts. Or if you're talking to your wife again, I would not recommend charts. But you may want to write things down. If you get nervous, you have to know your temperament, right? Some people really struggle with communication. They either get really shy, they get interrupted a lot, or they come off way too strong. Like you just can't even talk to that person. And so a better way to do that is by bringing it, being honest, have something to say, have a take. Let me pause here, by the way, before I keep going, and just check out here all of my comments. Make sure I'm going to go here to Periscope, to Restream, to Producer. Great to see some people there on YouTube as well. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let me just check one more thing here on my new website here. I have a chat that brings all the comments into one place. So I wanted to know kind of what's going on there. Glad to see a few of you there tuning in, one person there, and then a few others that are checking things out. If you're, by the way, watching this on the replay, then thank you for being here. And you can always go back and review these 10 steps. So number 3, what was that? Number 3 is, let me actually do something here really quick so I can see these tips clearly because they're kind of a little bit out of the way. There you go. Number 3, bring it. Be honest. Have something to say. Have a take. So what I was saying is prepare a statement. You may want to read something. For some people, if you're not very articulate or quick on your feet, you may want to read a prepared statement. Those are very clear. Some people are better writers than communicators. Maybe that's part of the problem, right? Some people just aren't very good at talking. Not everyone is. I would say in my years, maybe a third of the people are very good in the moment. Most people, they struggle to talk because usually you have someone else who dominates the conversation. And so you want to be prepared. Bring something, read something, have something prepared, and most of all, bring it. That's number 3. Number 4 is smile at all times. I'm talking about over smile. I'm talking about over deliver till your face literally hurts. If your face doesn't hurt, you are not smiling. And this is from Disneyland. I actually was watching some things on their training and how they train their actors and their dancers and all of their performers. They tell them that they have to over smile until their face literally is going to be just melt off. Their smile is going to melt off their face. Now, why do you have to smile? Why do all this? Obviously with your wife, if you're just the 2 of you, I would not recommend this. This is more maybe for stage presentations or if you're in a larger group, maybe even a staff group where there's maybe 6, 7 of you. But obviously the larger you get, the larger you have to be. Literally, you have to be larger than life if you're going to communicate with a larger audience. I'm talking about anything over 25 people. You have to be larger than life. Because what draws people's attention is your face, your body, your arms, your hands, not so much what you're saying or what you're thinking, even less. So you have to have that big smile. Notice the difference here. I'm going to not smile right now. And then I'm going to smile. one is like a game show host, right? One is overly done. One is like way off the charts. And I mean, that's not even that bad. But the second one communicates on video. Remember, we're all on video these days. I don't mean like actual camera, but I mean everyone's an audience. Everyone is watching you at all times. So be sure that when you're walking into a room, anything that's larger than, like I said, 25 people, you need to be smiling until it hurts. That's number 4. Number 5 is give yourself a beat. So in other words, when you get up on a stage, this is now some tips to how to be on a stage. One of the things that my theater teacher taught me a while back is she would say, when you walk on stage, never start talking on the way up or never start talking as soon as you get up there. Instead, get up there, look at your feet, and if you don't want to look down, just think about this and say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Toe. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Toe. Good morning. So you're talking to your toes, to your feet, and she had something more clever that I really can't remember. I've been thinking about this forever. But something like, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Toes. How are you this morning? That's something you're thinking in your head when you get up there. You obviously don't say this. You don't have any expressions. You're just getting up there and you get to the stage, to your spot, and you say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Toes. How are you? And then you say, hello, everybody. Welcome to GOZOtv. And what that does is it gives the audience a moment to reframe or to refocus the frame. Because often, especially in large groups, you're coming up after something else, music or another speaker, a video. This could be at church, this could be at work, wherever it is. You're usually coming up after something. Even if you're the first thing on a stage, you're coming up after people just sitting around. So you're always following someone. You're always transitioning to something else. So you want to get up there and then say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Toes. Good morning. And then, hello, everybody. How are you? So that you can give people, it's not for you. You don't need that. Although it does calm your nerves as well, I've found. But it's for people to have that space, those just few milliseconds. You don't want to have that be too long because then it gets awkward, like, what's going on here? Is anybody home? But you want to give that beat. That's number 5. Number 6, have a pat answer, a pat intro, a stump speech. One of the things that people always struggle with, they tell me, is like, I don't know what to say in social situations. Maybe when I'm new to a place, you're a guest somewhere, you're going to a party and you don't know anybody. If you're an introvert, you know what I'm talking about, right? You just don't know what to say. You would rather be in the bathroom or stay in the car, right? I know a lot of people like that. Some of my kids are like that. I don't tend to have that problem, but you know, a lot of people don't know what to do in social environments when their friends or their wife or husband isn't there. What do? I suggest a few things. Have a pat answer for those first few seconds. So one of the things that I always recommend to people is they walk into a room, you have an answer to their questions that you've prepared ahead of time. What do people normally ask in those situations? Oh, hi, what's your name? Oh, hi, where do you work? If you're younger, what are they going to ask you? Oh, hi, what grade are you in? Or what school do you go to, right? And so I've seen many children, youth, and adults freeze during those moments. Instead, know ahead of time that you're going to be asked the same things everywhere you go. And so prepare an answer. So for example, if the question in most places where I go, let's say when I go lead worship somewhere, normally what people are going to ask me is, oh, what church do you go to? Or, oh, how long have you played the guitar? Right? Just think of your career or of your area. People ask you the same things over and over again. So instead of freezing, have a pat answer. Oh, I've been playing guitar for 5 years. Oh, okay. If you're someone younger, hey, I go to Millikan High School. Or I went to UCLA. If you're more of a young adult, obviously a college student, have a pat answer for those first few awkward moments. But then after that, make sure that you then give your stump speech. Avoid politics, avoid religion, but instead of just simply answering that first micro question, you want to contribute to the conversation by doing the second thing, and this is having a stump speech, talking about general things. So for example, hello, Mr. Trig. Oh, how long have you been playing guitar? I've been playing for about 10, 20 years. Awkward. People are just standing there. Now what? So you dominate the conversation, take control by saying something like, traffic was horrible on the way here today. The 405 is so full. What does that do? It gives the other person something general and easy to talk about. It fills that awkward space with something that's not religion, that's not politics, it's not anything crazy like that, but it's something general that is really more of an opinion that you're giving, and the other person can then do the same and give their opinion. They can say, yeah, I took the 22 and it was just as bad, and I can't believe that there are so many people out there this early in the morning. You both smile, you both say, hey, thanks so much, I'm glad to meet you. Okay, talk to you later. There you go. You don't always have to do that. Sometimes the first thing is just all you need and people are just, they move on. But if you're in that awkward in-between, which happens to a lot of people, you want to be able to have that stump speech, that next thing that avoids politics, avoids religion, is something general, such as, for example, you can talk about the weather, of course, traffic. You can talk about sports. Wasn't that an amazing Game 3 last night in the NBA? Now, the other person could say, yeah, I hate basketball. Then what do? Don't freeze. You can say, the traffic was horrible today. Now, if you keep trying these and people are still stuck, then that's just them. They need a social life. But you get my point. So that is number 6. Number 7, get great at small talk and general themes. Get great at small talk. And really, I guess this is a similar thing as number 6, but they kind of go hand in hand. The first one was more have a pat answer, know what to say in those first awkward moments. But then 7 is really, I guess, what I was saying on the second half of that, is get great at small talk by avoiding religion, politics, and go to general themes. Okay, so let's keep going. Number 8 is learn from the best communicators. You need to, if you're going to be a better communicator, you need to be constantly asking and watching awesome communicators. Duh, right? Now, that's why you watch me, right? You're like, man, I want to talk like Trig. I'm telling you, communication is something that I have mastered. And I'm not saying that I'm a master at it, but it's something that I have focused on for maybe, 20, 25 years. I love communication. I do so much to improve my communication every day. So now here's some tips. How do you improve? Well, like I said, learn from the best communicators. How? First of all, you want to watch them and listen to them. I have, obviously, as a communicator, I have my 3 or 4 guys and also some male communicators. It's not just males and it's not just pastors. I will watch my 3, 4 people and I will literally just kind of analyze how they communicate. How do they start? Many times, I remember maybe a year ago, I studied, you know who I studied? Mr. Rogers. Talk about a master communicator. But how did he do it? Very gently. Hello, Gozo Nation. Hello, Gozo Cup. Did you notice how all that just brought you into the moment? It just kind of gave you a moment to pause. I learned that from Mr. Rogers. Now, I don't do that very often. I have a different personality, but I learned that from him. Who else did I watch? Oh, my goodness. The King, Larry King. I took a course with him online. I watched him for weeks. I remember just examining. He did a course online that I bought on how to communicate, on how to do interviews, on what to do when someone is upset at you. And I'm not saying again that I'm a perfect communicator, but I've learned from these masters. Who are your masters of communication? So let me pause right here. Once again, leave me a comment below. Call me at 851-741-8376. What is your major block when it comes to communication? On Periscope, leave me a comment below. On YouTube, here on Facebook as well. Now, one of the things that I've noticed about myself is that I talk way too fast. Camera is going to just reset here for a second. There we go. Welcome back. And so one of the things that I'm always trying to do is to speak more clearly. Not slowly, because I'm not a very slow speaker. I mean, it's in the blood, right? But to speak clearly. and eloquently. If you don't have, maybe if you're not a native English speaker, I basically am. But if you're not and you stumble over your words, speak more clearly, write things down. But back to the whole thing of learning from the best communicators. Obviously podcasts, obviously learn from people, that you're listening to in the car. And here's what I mean by learning from them. Don't just simply listen. But what I have done before with preachers especially that I love, that are different than me, that are maybe similar to me, I learn from all of them, is I write down, I manuscript their whole sermon. I transcribe their whole sermon. I've literally sat there for 5 or 6 hours studying one sermon. You're like, no wonder the guy's amazing. At least I think I am, right? But you have to dissect. Now, how do I do this? Well, this will be another course that maybe we can do someday. But I go line by line, and because of my music background, I'm always thinking in terms of flow. So I always have like 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, and the best communicators, they speak in paragraphs in flow. They are the best communicators. Study the masters. Ask yourself, who are your masters? Study them. Now, one last tip in terms of this is record yourself and then listen and watch yourself. Oh man, I do this every day. Every time that I do these, I go back immediately, at least throughout the day, and listen back. Not to think I'm horrible or think I'm great, but to learn. I'm thinking, okay, I said that too many times. I have little notes here that I still keep to this day of things that I tend to overdo, oversay. One of my problems, I repeat myself a lot. I've gotten so much better. Other times, I go off on a tangent, and then I finally come back to my point. I have gotten so much better at that. How? By listening. Another thing that I'm growing in is pace. Get to the things quicker. Don't linger on something too long. I still struggle with that because my mind, I have so many thoughts, but I'm getting better at that. And how have I gotten better? By listening to myself daily. You might not speak daily. Well, you better begin to practice speaking daily into your phone and listen back. That's number what? 8. Number 9, talk to everyone. Talk to everyone. Because as someone said, they have what you want. One of the things that I find that people often struggle with is they don't talk to people. If you want to be a good communicator, you need to actually what? Talk. It's like somebody said, if you want to be a great preacher, then preach. If you want to be a great anything, you got to actually do it so that you can see where you're at. And so number 9 is talk to everyone. Practice at home with your wife. Hey, I'm trying something. Maybe you're at work and you just go out with a friend or two and try to do this discreetly, obviously. Say, hey, I want to try. I'm trying to improve my communication. I want to read something to you. Do these videos. Maybe you don't send them out anywhere, but record videos and then talk to yourself. Talk into the microphone. But better yet, talk to people. And I know this is hard, but try to use these tools and try it next time at church tomorrow night or Sunday or whatever, and say, okay, I'm going to try to implement just one of these things that Trig said. And just begin to talk to everyone. And then lastly is don't be quiet. And I think I already said this, speak up. That's really the main thing I want to give you is stop being weak. Stop being a quiet person and speak up. Speak up. If you want to be heard, if you want to make more money, if you want to have your message be heard by people, if you want to influence other people, there's a great book called How to Influence Friends and Influence People, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book, I recommend it. I've read it a million times. If you want to win friends and influence people, because guess what? You need to. If you want to raise, you need to influence the boss. If you want to build a new house, you have to influence your wife. If you want to have a baby, you need to influence your wife for sure. Even if you want to buy a new dog, you have to influence your wife, most likely. Whatever, you know what I mean, right? But if you want to win friends and influence people, you need to speak up. No one can read your mind. No one's reading your blog. Nobody's following you online to wonder what you're really meaning. No one's reading anything. No one cares. Nobody cares about you. Let me just say it this way. Nobody cares about you. I don't care about you. My point is, you need to speak up. The only reason we're here communicating is why? Because I am here communicating with all this stuff because I want to be heard. You need to be the same. You need to believe that there's a message inside of you, that there's something in you that wants to get out. And you have something to say for God, for your cause, for your family, for your own dreams and your own career and where you're going. Now, the answer may be no, maybe, or let's talk about it, or it may be yes. So the point of communication is not always getting your way. The point of communication is to be true to your values, to what's in here. And if you haven't thought about that, then that's where you want to start. Think about, like I said earlier, have a take, have something to say. If you don't have anything to say, you need to then quiet yourself and think about it and say, this is what I want, and then begin to practice some of these things. So before I go, I want to wrap up here by checking out some of the comments as we go on this beautiful day. We're here on Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. I'm checking out here, producer on Periscope. Thank you so much for being here, guys, on YouTube Live as well. Always watching your comments here. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific. Make sure that you share this video with your friends. I hope that these 10 tips have given you something to think about. Remember to call in this number live when we're here. If you're watching this after the fact, then make sure that you leave me a comment below. Here's the question. What gets in the way of your communication? What keeps you? What prevents you from getting your point across? And try to do this. Try to think more about yourself and not to blame your husband, your boss, other people. Think more about what prevents you from speaking clearly and communicating your point. Remember always to come back here every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific, más o menos. Every Friday, by the way, we do this same show en español. Mañana va a ser en español. Se llama Vida Gozo con David Trig aquí en su programa. Gracias por estar aquí. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Remember, though there's pain in the night, gozo comes in the morning. Have a great rest of this day. Have a great rest of this week. Have a great rest of this month. And I will see you next time. Adios. Vamos a bailar ahora. Vamos.